All right, hey, this is Mark coming to you from Baker's Green Acres. Today's the 22nd of April 2018. And I realize I've been a bit remiss in making videos lately. We had winter come back, and as you can see, we still have quite a bit of snow, but it's supposed to be 60 today. So here it is, April 22nd, and we still got snow on the ground. So it kind of threw us for a loop, what we usually do. Usually we have chicks by now, but we don't have any now because everything was under snow. So it was blowing, and it was cold, and it was tough. So anyway, I wasn't really doing anything, and I think my morale was kind of dipping a little bit. And so I didn't make any videos. I was working on a couple things that were interesting, but I didn't do anything. But I wanted to make a follow-up video on this whole mushroom log project and show you how it turns out and where we place the logs. And this is the way I do it. Since then, I wound up listening to a bunch of YouTube videos about how other people do it, and it's different than I do it. And so I would say that there's many ways that you could do it, and I would encourage people to experiment and then share what they come up with. And by no means is this the only way to do it. I mean, by no means. This is the way I was shown how to do it by a guy that did a seminar. And, all right. So these are oak logs. There's two varieties of oak logs. There was stuff that was cut last fall, and then there was stuff that was cut the fall before. So if I buy firewood, I buy it by the semi-load, and if I buy stuff that's seasoned in log length, it's less expensive than the stuff that is not seasoned. So I usually buy the unseasoned stuff and then let it season. That means it just sits, and then I cut it up. Well, sometimes there's skinny stuff in there, and that's what these are. A lot of people don't like that. They like the big logs that they can split. I don't. I like the skinny stuff. And then I can use it for this. So what I did is I got in between three trees here and made like a triangle. And then we lean these logs up against it at about this angle. And as you can see, this is by the front of our house. And it's under evergreens. So these will even bushy up a little bit as spring comes, and there'll be more shade here. And that's kind of what we want, because you want this area to be moist all the time. And then I do have water on this fence line here, so I can have a hose over here. And it's pine needles on the ground here, so all I have to do is wet this down, and it'll stay nice and moist. What you don't want is you don't want the logs to dry out, because the mycelium that's in the logs can die, and you don't want that to happen. So I wanted to show you the logs from last year. They are laying on the ground right now, and some people do that in the winter time so that they'll get covered with snow and it will protect the mycelium. And I guess we have done that too. But I'll show you a log that is about 5 years old. This one right here. You can see it's got the holes in it. When we did those logs, we used sawdust, and we pushed in sawdust into the holes. And the birds come and they pull that out. And the nice thing about the plug spawn is the birds can't pull it out because it's wedged in there. We hammer them in. But after a few years, the logs become very light, and you kind of know that they're about on their last leg. They'll still fruit, but not as much. So my new logs that I just put out, what I probably should have done is I should have been making 10, 15, 20 logs every spring, and that way I'd have a nice little mushroom yard here. And it doesn't take much work. If you can't pick them, don't pick them. If you don't have a market for them, it's only because you think you don't have a market for them. People like mushrooms, and maybe you're not going to sell them or anything like that. Nowadays, I think that there's a lot of hoops you got to jump through. So what I would do is establish a market with your friends and trade for something that they do. I mean, you might have a friend that does pedicures, you know, and you can trade mushrooms for pedicures. Or things like that. Or somebody that raises chickens, or somebody that does gardening, or something like that. If you take them to the farmer's market, you got to be a certified mushroom person through the you-know-who. So I don't think that that's a good idea. If nothing else, what we do is we take them off and we chunk them up and then put them in a dehydrator. They dehydrate really well. And then you just put them in Ziploc bags leave a corner open, and they're stable. You can put them someplace where it's dark. And then if you're making soups and stuff, just throw a bag of those babies in. Man, it's good stuff. And they're really good for you too. So doing mushrooms is a good idea for the sustenance person, the homesteader, or the subsistence farmer. That is a way to go, because once this is set up, it does the work for me. All I have to do is come out and take the mushrooms off, and it's really fun. It's like Easter egg hunting. You come out and you see all these beautiful mushrooms, and it may redirect your day because you think you're mowing the lawn, but then you find out you're actually picking mushrooms and getting processed and all that. And maybe when the mushrooms start coming in, I'll make a video and show the logs fruiting, and I'll show a little bit more about what they call force fruiting. I haven't found that to be something that I need to do, because this isn't a business. This is just, you know, I don't trade these mushrooms for dollars. So when they fruit, we take them off. But somebody that's doing it commercially, what they would want to do is they'd want to fruit a certain amount of their logs every week. So you submerge the logs for 24 hours, and then you take them out, and they should fruit in a day or two, right? But that's not something that I'm going to be doing, because it's sort of like eggs. You know, the chickens lay eggs in the spring, and they lay real heavy, and then throughout the winter, they're kind of intermittent, and that's just the way it is. That's just the way it is. That's a seasonal pattern. And so then what we have to do is we have to learn how to preserve when this comes in abundance for a time when there is no abundance. And that is the trick to subsistence farming, is to, you know, make hay while the sun shines, but figure out how to preserve that product so that you can utilize it at another time. All right, it's Mark from Baker's Green Acres. We'll be coming back at you.